funeral practitioners are demanding the scrapping of certificates of competence as a prerequisite for the removal of bodies from mortuaries. The National Funeral Practitioners Association of South Africa saying that the policy discriminates against undertakers who don't own storage facilities and places black practitioners at a particular advantage. Now, Muzi Hlengwa is the president of the association and a member of the task team that staged a sit-in at the Pretoria Home Affairs head office. He joins us now via our video link. Muzi, a very good morning to you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning on the AM Report. I want to just, as a start, before we get into this issue, ask you about, we've spoken to you at various points during the pandemic about the difficulties of your work when our deaths in particular were so high, our daily death rate, pardon me. What's the latest now as we continue to work through the COVID-19 pandemic?
Good morning to you and good morning to the viewers at home. One is relieved and I should say pleased that the death rate has gone down from what we had during the third wave, and we appeal to the general members of the public to keep their social distance and carry on sanitizing and wearing the mask. Indeed, even the funeral industry now has gone back to normal.
Oh, that's very interesting to note. I mean, in terms of the issue around these certificates of competence as a prerequisite for the removal of bodies from mortuaries and hospitals, was this something that was also in place during the pandemic, during the height of the pandemic?
Actually, it came up during the time of a pandemic. Some opportunists saw it fit that they will utilize the Department of Health in order to block others from operating in the industry. It's history now that we went on strike, and the Department of Health indeed agreed with us that the requirement of a COC as a prerequisite for body removals is unlawful and unfair to smaller palace. What the problem that we were having that was outstanding was with the Department of Home Affairs, who still wants people to produce the COC for them to be able to make an application as designated officers at the Department of Health. Without the designation number, an undertaker is not able to issue a death certificate. So it makes it very difficult for smaller partners who do not have their own mortuaries to be able to operate.
So who issues these certificates of competence?
The certificate of competence is issued by the Department of Health, the Environmental Health, in regards to the fitness of the premises and the facility, mortuary facility that an undertaker has. Now, there are undertakers who do not have mortuary facilities and who do not need to have them. For example, you have your Muslim society. They too operate like any other undertaker, but they do not have, they won't have, they will never have it because their religion doesn't allow or permit them to have a mortuary facility. So therefore, if you are forcing all undertakers to produce a COC, it means you have discriminated them, you are stopping them from operating. However, the Department of Health, of Home Affairs, had talks with the Muslim society, and they've allowed them to apply without producing a COC. Now our point here is, one, it does not have a mortuary facility. That means it doesn't have a COC because of a religious beliefs or culture. And there's on the other hand, there's one who does not have it because he does not afford to have it. So for whatever reasons that may be, both these panels do not have a COC. How come then one is allowed to be appointed as a designation officer, whereas the other one who is not able because of affordability to have his or her own mortuary being denied the right to apply for YBD. So we are saying to the Department of Home Affairs, they must create this thing of wanting undertakers to produce COCs before they appoint them. From where we're standing is that if an undertaker has written a test and they've passed the test and they have produced all requirements by the Department of Home Affairs to be appointed as designation officers, they should be able to do so without them having to be forced to produce the COCs that we know the majority do not have.
Yeah. So I mean, Muzi, is it not sort of part of the checks and balances to ensure that the industry does run and does function at a particular level, the COC?
For years, we have been operating in the same manner. Those who have large storage facilities will always assist those who do not have. And it has always been like that. So they cannot now come and develop new rules in order to stop others from operating. Let people fail because they are not cut out to be business people. Let's not make them to fail.
Yeah. And in fact, the Funeral Practitioners Association, it's one of the issues that it has with the Department of Home Affairs. The other issue is that the department should allow undertakers to register deaths on behalf of aggrieved families. In fact, the association is arguing that Home Affairs is killing the businesses of particularly black practitioners.
Exactly. You know, it is said that you as a small undertaker will go to Home Affairs and they deny you a right to register a death certificate. But a bigger company, they will come in with a pile, and when they come in at Home Affairs, they will leave their pile there, go and do whatever they're doing, and when the Home Affairs is done with those death certificates, they will pick up a phone and call that company to come back and pick their stuff. Now, an undertaker who's here physically in the queue waiting is being denied the right to register, but someone comes with a pile, leaves it here, and we have to use the state resources to call them and tell them that they can come and pick up their certificate, which disadvantages the small palace. The rule is the rule. It should exist and followed by everyone. If we are all denied a right to register a death certificate, it must happen to everyone. Not with small companies and large companies are allowed.
I mean, Muzi, you've threatened now as the association, I believe, to not conduct any funerals in South Africa until those demands are met. I mean, that's a very worrying threat to make in the midst of a pandemic. Is it something that you're going to follow through with?
No, let me correct that. First, it is not the NAFUPA SA which is fighting with the Department of Health. It's a collective of funeral undertakers associations under UTT, of which NAFUPA SA belongs. When I'm at UTT, I'm the spokesperson of the UTT. What we were saying was that we had a meeting with them. There was an agreement, and then when they were supposed to issue a circular, they changed and they went back from what they were saying. We then said to them they must give us the recording of the meeting because the meeting was recorded, and they did not want to give us that recording. Instead of us inconveniencing the public, we went physically to Home Affairs and staged a sit-in there for the whole day up until the Director General came down to us and spoke to us. And luckily we have found each other because as from today, they have removed the COC. The circular will be issued today. But should they again, I mean, go back from what they were saying. We are indeed gonna be forced to take it to the streets. We don't like to do that. We don't want to be seen as people who are now and again going on strike, given the nature of the industry that we are operating in. But if that's the only way that this government understands, then so it's be.
So the COC, as of today, the circular yet to be issued, is no longer in effect. Muzi Hlengwa is president of the National Funeral Practitioners Association. Thanks very much indeed for your time this morning, Muzi. In effect, by forcing all funeral parlours to produce this certificate of compliance, it jeopardizes the business of particularly smaller parlours. In fact, that number is around 30,000 smaller parlours that rely on 1 or 2 funerals, we're told by the organisation, 1 or 2 funerals per month.